I've been watching General Hospital long enough to know when a storyline is trying too hard to convince me of something, and when there's a hidden crack underneath the surface that the writers actually want us to notice. And guys, this whole situation with Pascal, Sonny, Laura, Sidwell, Dalton, and now even Britt and Rocco tangled into the mess, it feels exactly like one of those moments where the truth is sitting right in front of us, but nobody on screen is willing to say it out loud yet. The more I sit with this storyline, the more I believe Sonny and Laura are making the biggest mistake possible by putting their faith in Pascal. If you ask me, Pascal was never somebody who could be manipulated safely. You can pressure a desperate man. You can corner him. You can even blackmail him emotionally, but you cannot predict what a man like Pascal will do once he realizes he has nothing left to lose. That's the dangerous part of this entire setup. And honestly, I think Sonny knows it too. That's why these scenes suddenly feel heavier. Lately, Sonny is not acting like a man with confidence. He's acting like somebody gambling with limited options. There's a difference. A huge difference. What really caught my attention was Laura agreeing to this plan after Britt explained what happened the night Dalton died. That detail matters more than people realize. Because Laura, for all her flaws recently, still tries to justify her actions morally before crossing a line. The old Laura would never willingly involve herself in criminal manipulation unless she believed the alternative was worse. That tells me Britt gave Sonny and Laura information terrifying enough to make them panic. But here's where I think the storyline exposes a massive inconsistency, maybe even intentionally. Why is Sonny not chasing Britt and Rocco? Seriously, I cannot let that go. Rocco is family. Sonny has protected his family through wars, mob attacks, betrayals, federal investigations, you name it. And Britt currently holds the one thing Sonny desperately needs: eyewitness testimony connected to Dalton's death. So, somebody explain this to me. Why would Sonny spend all this energy trying to flip Pascal instead of securing Britt first? It makes no sense strategically. If Britt confirms Sonny and Laura did not kill Dalton, the entire foundation of Sidwell's leverage starts cracking apart immediately. That is the cleaner solution, the safer solution, the smarter solution. Instead, Sonny chooses chaos. And whenever Sonny chooses chaos over logic, I start wondering if emotion is clouding his judgment again, because this doesn't feel like the calculating Sonny we've seen survive impossible situations for decades. This feels personal, reckless, emotional. Maybe Sonny is scared Britt could expose something else. That's the thought I keep coming back to while watching these episodes. Maybe Britt knows details Sonny doesn't want entering a courtroom. Maybe Dalton's death is more complicated than we think. Or maybe Sonny believes Britt herself cannot be trusted long-term, which honestly would fit perfectly with the paranoid tone this storyline has developed. Then there's Laura. Guys, Laura is slipping further into darkness than I expected. Sidwell turning Laura from a respected mayor into somebody vulnerable to criminal prosecution is actually one of the strongest psychological angles GH has done in a while. Because Laura isn't built emotionally for this kind of world. Sonny is. Laura isn't. You can see it in the way she reacts now. There's hesitation mixed with panic. Every decision feels heavier on her shoulders. Sidwell understands that. He's not just blackmailing Laura legally, he's destroying her identity piece by piece. And I think Dalton's death is haunting her far more deeply than Sonny realizes. That's why I absolutely believe Laura could pull the trigger if Pascal suddenly aims at Sonny. People may disagree with me there, but look closely at the emotional setup. Laura already feels trapped. She already believes her life is collapsing publicly. If Pascal reaches for that gun, Laura's brain is not going to process politics or legality anymore. She's going to see one thing: survival. And honestly, that's where this whole story becomes explosive. Because Pascal is exactly the kind of man who would rather die violently than become somebody else's pawn. Sonny threatening Pascal with Sidwell's potential revenge over Marco's death is probably the final psychological push that breaks him. Sonny basically corners Pascal from both sides. Betray Sidwell and die. Refuse Sonny and die anyway. That's not negotiation. That's suffocation. Pascal knows it. So if Pascal suddenly pulls a gun on Sonny from behind during that secret meeting, I wouldn't even call it shocking. I'd call it inevitable. And here's another thing I keep thinking about. Sonny may actually expect the betrayal before it happens. Watch how careful Sonny becomes whenever Pascal enters a room lately. Watch the body language, the pauses, the tension. Sonny is treating Pascal like a live grenade with a loose pin. That's why Laura being present matters so much. Sonny probably knows Laura is there as backup protection, even if nobody says it openly. But if Laura shoots Pascal, everything changes instantly. Everything. At that point, Sonny and Laura are no longer trying to clear their names. They become active participants in another death cover-up. And that's the kind of spiral GH loves, because every solution creates an even bigger disaster. The most chilling possibility to me is not Pascal dying. It's Sonny deciding Pascal's body can never be found. That's dark, even for Sonny. And the second Ethan got mentioned for an upcoming mission, my mind immediately went there too. Because what kind of mission would require loyalty, secrecy, and absolutely no questions asked? Disposing of evidence fits perfectly. If Ethan ends up helping Sonny move Pascal's body somewhere permanent, that creates another future time bomb. Bodies never stay hidden forever in Port Charles. Ever. Somebody always talks. Somebody always finds something. One mistake, one witness, one piece of forensic evidence, and the entire house collapses. And let me tell you something else I don't think enough viewers are considering. Sidwell may already anticipate Pascal's betrayal. That man is written too smart lately to leave loose ends untouched. If Sidwell suspects Pascal is wavering, there's a real chance he already has surveillance, backup leverage, or even another player monitoring the meeting secretly. Which means Sonny and Laura could walk directly into a trap while believing they're the ones controlling the board. That would be classic GH storytelling. The irony here is almost tragic when you think about it long enough. Sonny and Laura are trying to escape becoming criminals by behaving more and more like criminals. That's the part I actually love about this story, despite all the plot holes. Morally, nobody feels clean anymore. Not Sonny, not Laura, not Britt, not Pascal. Everybody's operating from fear, survival, or desperation. And when GH gets messy like this emotionally, the show usually becomes far more interesting than when characters are clearly heroes or villains. Still, I can't shake this feeling that Britt remains the missing piece nobody is handling correctly. The moment Britt speaks publicly, the balance shifts. That's why I keep circling back to her over and over in my mind. Sonny focusing on Pascal instead feels like a temporary shortcut instead of a permanent solution. Maybe that shortcut works for a few episodes. Maybe it even looks successful at first. But shortcuts in Port Charles always come with consequences attached. And if Pascal disappears, if Laura fires that gun, if Ethan helps clean up the aftermath, then Dalton's death won't be the scandal destroying lives anymore. Pascal's death will